Salut miteinander. Welcome back. We're now on to chapter 19 of The Fairy Caravan by Beatrix Potter. Mary Ellen was a fat tabby cat with sore eyes and white paws and an unnecessarily purry manner. If people only looked at her, she purred and scrubbed her head against them. She meant well, but she drove Paddy Pig wild. Was it a little sick piggy wiggy? Was it cold then? Purred Mary Ellen, working her claws into the horse blanket and squirming it upwards. The result was that the top of the blanket got into Paddy Pig's mouth, while his hind feet were left bare and cold. Bless its little petty toes! No, it must not kick its blanket off its beddy. What? I'm suffocated! Sandy, take away this cat! I'm scumfished! Was it a little fidgety pidgety? Sandy, I say take away this awful cat! Screamed Paddy Pig. At that moment Cheesebox entered the stable carrying a jug of roux tea. He sounds very fractious. Keep him flat, Mary Ellen. Paddy Pig sat up violently under the blanket. Bring me a bucketful of pig wash. None of your cat lap. Roux tea, purred Mary Ellen. My Mrs. Scales always prescribes nice roux tea in a little china cuppy cup for sick piggy wiggies with tummy achies. Paddy Pig swallowed the roux tea under protest. He was sick immediately in spite of the expostulations of the two cats. Margaret, the mare in the next stall, blew her nose and stamped. After he had exhausted himself with kicking and squealing, Paddy Pig sank into uneasy slumber. But every time he turned over, he kicked off the blanket, and there was another cat fight. Towards midnight, he grew quieter. The cats sat up all night, wide awake and watchful. There were noises of rats in the old walls of the stable, and noises of night birds without. Twice during the small hours of the morning, Sandy's black nose appeared under the stable door. He listened to the patient's uneasy breathing, and then returned to his straw bed underneath the caravan. At 2 a.m, the cats made themselves a dish of tea, proper tea, made of tea leaves. It enlivened them to endless purring conversations. They gossiped about other cats of their acquaintance, about our cat Tamsin and her 15th family of kittens, and how Tamsin once was lost for a whole week and came home very thin, and after all, she had been no further off than the next-door house, which was shut up empty while the tenants had gone away for a week's holiday. But what had Tamsin been doing to get herself locked into the next-door pantry, I wonder? Perhaps she was catching dear little mousies, purred Mary Ellen. She did not look as though she had eaten many. And to think that her people had heard her meowing, and had searched for her high and low, never guessing that the next-door house was locked up unoccupied. And there was Maddie too. Oh, what a sad accident. Caught her in a rabbit trap. Poor love. She has limped about on only 3 footsies ever since. That comes of rabbiting, said Cheesebox, who was a stay-at-home cat. I used to know a black cat called Smutty, who caught moles alive and brought them into the kitchen. What? Will you be quiet, you horrid old cats? I want to go to sleep. A sweet pussy is Tamsin. Whose kitten was she? Resumed Mary Ellen after renewed struggles with the patient and the blanket. Whose kitten? She was Judy's kitten, only of course she wasn't not Judy's. Judy had a fat, big kitten of her own in the hayloft, and one day she brought in a much younger young kitten, the smallest that ever was seen. It was so very tiny it could sit inside a glass tumbler. Goodness knows where Judy had picked it up. She carried it into the house and put it down before the fire on the hearth-rug. Judy nursed it, and it grew into Tamsin, but it was not Judy's kitten. She was a fine cat, old Judy, such a splendid ratter. Tamsin is a rubbish. She will not look at a rat, and she plays with mice, which is as silly as trying to educate them. Did I ever tell you of Louisa Pussycat's mouse seminary? No, never. Does she bury the dear little things? I always eat them. I did not say cemetery, I said seminary. Seminary is the genteel word for school. Miss Louisa Pussycat is very genteel. One night I went to town to buy soap and candles, and I thought I might as well call at the Mrs. Pussycat's shop as I was passing. On my way through the square, I saw Louisa coming down the steps from the loft over the stores. She had purchases in a basket, and she was on her way homewards. We passed the time of night and inquired after each other's kittens. Then, as I had hoped, she invited me to step in and drink a cup of tea and inspect the latest spring fashions from Catchester. As we went along the catwalk, she told me how she had commenced to keep a mouse seminary in addition to conducting the millinery business. She said it is remarkable how character can be moulded in early youth. You would scarcely credit the transformation which I achieved with my mice cheesebox. I inquired, do you use porcelain moulds or tin, Louisa? Character cheesebox. I refer to the amelioration of disposition and character, not to compote of mouse. I mould and educate their minds. I counteract bad habits by admission, by rewards, and by judicious weeding out. Recalcitrant pupils, whose example might prove deleterious, are fried for supper by Matilda. I never have any problems with dunces or drones. My pupils excel especially in application and in exemplary perseverance. This very night I have left the whole seminary industriously occupied with the task of sorting 2 pounds of rice, which I have inadvertently poured into the moist sugar canister. Think of the time which I could have cost me to retrieve those grains of rice myself. But thanks to my indefatigable mice, I am free to go out shopping, and my sister Matilda is drinking tea with friends, whilst my mice seminary is sorting rice and sugar under the superintendence of my favourite pupil, Tilly Dumpling. I have also taught my mice to count beans into dozens and to sift oatmeal into a chestnut. Dear me, Louisa, said I, getting a word in edgeways, are their fingers clean enough to handle groceries? I always think one can smell mice in a store cupboard. My mice cheesebox always lick their fingers before touching food. Really? And can you trust them with cheese? We have a china cheese cover which the mice are unable to raise, but for ordinary household duties, such as tidying and dusting, their assistance is invaluable. And they call me punctually at 8:30, I should say 7:30. I sit up late, trimming bonnets. At this point of the conversation, we turned a corner and came in sight of the milliner's shop. A little steep, 3-storied house with diamond panes in the window. They call it Thimble Hall. The house was lighted up, not only the shop, but also the parlour, which the Mrs. Pussycats only used on Sundays. Dear me, Louisa, do you allow your mice to burn candles? No. It is an indiscretion, said Louisa, feeling in her pocket for her latchkey. Even before the key was in the lock, we could hear patterings, squeakings, and shrill laughter. Your pupils seem to be merry, Louisa. It must be the little wretch Tilly Didlum, who eats comfits in school. We'll have mouse sausage for supper, said Louisa, opening the house door hurriedly. As we entered the passage, we encountered a smell of toffee, and something boiled over on the parlour fire with a flare-up. There was pitter-pattering and scurrying into mouse-holes, followed by silence. We looked into the parlour. The fire had been lighted upon a weekday, and upon the fire was a frying-pan. Toffee, mouse toffee, toffee with lemon in it. I'll toffee you. I will bake the whole seminary into a pasty. When you catch them, Louisa. After all, when the cat's away, the mice will play. I fancy that was the end of Mrs. Pussycat's mouse seminary. Since then they have been content to manage the bonnet shop. Danke. Thank you for coming today. Hopefully we'll get the next chapter out next week. See you then. Auf Wiedersehen.